How's it going, everyone? It is time for Nick at Night, the non-spoiler comic book review show where I go over the books I read this past week. Stay tuned. All right, before we get started, I'm really close to 500 subs right now, so if you're watching this video and you're not subbed up, consider hitting that sub button, like it, maybe share it with some friends. I really would appreciate it. Let's dive into the books we picked up this past week. We're going to start over in Marvel. We're talking about Daredevil, Woman Without Fear from Chip Zdarsky, and this is actually a pretty interesting book. I liked the main Daredevil run that Zdarsky's put together. I was interested in Elektra kind of taking over the mantle while Matt was kind of in prison doing whatever the hell he was doing towards the end of that run over there. I'm excited for her to continue it, and I'm excited for Devil's Reign to kind of be in the background a little bit and kind of exploring this character a little bit more as Daredevil. So we have Latora on the art, which blew me away in this issue here. It has a little mixture of like recap of what's been going on, her interactions with Wilson Fisk. She has a cool conversation with Matt over there, and she's kind of revisiting some of the demons that she kind of had to overcome back in the past. So some past mentors or teachers, but they're kind of sadistic in their own way. She's kind of hunting that down right there. And speaking of getting hunted, there's a really, really cool villain that I haven't seen in a very, very long time in comic books. I haven't actually read anything from the person that's introduced in the last part of this book over here. Not going to spoil that, but it has me super pumped for this run in general. The art is killer. I like the dialogue. The art style, she's drawn very like Barbie-ish, which is okay for the most part in here. The expressions and the coloring is beautiful in this book. I like the way it read. I love the fluid dialogue. Zdarsky can do that though. So I've been digging that a lot. So overall, I've been really, really digging this book so far. We're on issue 1. We'll see where it goes from there. Sticking with Marvel, we're moving over to a Devil's Reign tie-in for Superior 4 with that awesome Doc Ock cover right there. I was really enjoying this. I'm needing to kind of figure out what Doc Ock's been doing with the help of Wilson Fisk and some of the other runs, and I haven't quite been smart enough to really put those pieces together naturally. I'm glad they put a book out to help kind of flesh this out. And so we basically have these different versions of Doc Ock from all the multiverse. He's trying to pull everybody together right now and kind of combine all this power. He's trying to be the superior Ock. And so that's been kind of interesting. I got to be honest, the story overall, the motive behind everything was a little bit dull. I thought in this one, they're kind of hopping around dimension to dimension, just trying to find the Doc Ock in that dimension and trying to see who he actually is. We have like a Wolverine version, a Hulk version, a Ghost Rider version, and then our 616 version of Doc Ock. So I thought that was pretty interesting right there. We have Milla on the art, which is really interesting, and I really do like that art style. I mean, there's lots of interesting dialogue in here. I just don't dig the concept yet. I don't know if I want to give it another issue or so. And then we have some questionable parts in this book. Doc Ock doesn't understand how he's being kind of suppressed, how his powers are being suppressed. We figure out who's behind all that towards the end, and it's going to get a lot of people excited, I would imagine. But if you're into like crossing different superheroes and their power sets, and then add a little bit of a villain part into that as well, I think you might enjoy this book. And if you're a big Doc Ock fan, you might. I'm pretty new to Doc Ock, and so it didn't really blow me away just yet. But I might give it another issue, but I might not. I might see what you guys think about it. But yeah, Superior 4, not too bad, not too great. Kind of middle lane for me for Marvel. Those are all the Marvel books that I read this week. I got a few on the backlog. Maybe I'll get caught up and let you guys know. I'm going to move over to DC next with Jeff Lemire's Robin and Batman. See, I said it right this time. Robin and Batman. This is issue number 3, the last issue of this run. This is a book that I wish we had about 3 more issues with because I really enjoy all the little plots and the little narrative and the exploration between Batman and Dick Grayson. And so I've been enjoying this so far. It's like a story we haven't been told yet. It's nice and concise. There's no fluff. It's almost like, imagine like a 6 or 12 issue run where you have an issue or 2 where it's like, do we really even need that? It's like that. We're condensing it down, we're distilling it, we're getting 3 issues, and I've been loving it so far. The art style from Wynn is absolutely amazing. I do love that like watercolory effect. I'm a guy who appreciates the art in the background as well, but I don't mind it in these style of books. And you do get it from time to time. It's very watercolory. It's very murky. It's deep. It's dark. And I really enjoy that. I think it plays really well with the fight scenes they have in here, and especially with Batman and whatnot. I do appreciate the villain they had in this, Killer Croc. And so he's been utilized, I thought, pretty well in here. And he's a strong dude, you know what I mean? And so this is kind of earlier on in the Batman era, kind of, but it's really early on for this particular Robin. So you would expect somebody with the physical prowess of Killer Croc to actually have the upper hand in like hand-to-hand combat in close quarters, especially in the water. I do like how he kind of laid a trap for our team here, and I did really appreciate that. I liked all the inner monologue that they kind of put into that. It adds a lot of background and a lot of character building, which I really appreciated. He almost paints like a sympathy type story right here, and a lot of villains are pretty complex when you kind of dig into them. I don't like mindless villains necessarily, but this one right here kind of shows kind of like a pity situation for Killer Croc. There's a reason why he's kind of been in the shadows and has this grudge against this Robin right here. So this is a story all about Robin kind of coming into his own, taking up the mantle the proper way, coming in, saving the day. I thought it was a really concise story. I really enjoyed this one here. If you haven't picked it up yet and you're thinking about it, I would say go ahead and grab it, Jeff Lemire, and win on the art. This is Robin and Batman from DC. We're going to go over to James Tynion IV on the Joker number 11. I think I said I was dropping this book. Kind of changed my mind. I saw the cover. We're only 14 issues or so there's 14 issues of his run. We're on issue 11. I'm like, I really can't give up now, right? I'm kind of invested. So I went ahead and picked this one up, and it wasn't bad. It was not bad. It wasn't one of those flashback issues. I think they've had 2 of them. I believe issue 10 was kind of like a flashback issue. It went over more about Gordon's son and his kind of obsession with the Joker and him moving in with Gordon and stuff like that. That was all great. It just adds more weight to the overall story, I guess. But this one was pretty interesting right here. We do have some more information about the Samson family, which I thought was pretty interesting, and kind of their motives behind everything, how their family kind of fell apart, how they rose to power even. And so I did appreciate that. We're back in Gotham, thank God, because I was getting kind of bored being overseas and having our team split up all over the place. Joker's even put into an interesting situation in this book. And so I will say the art style is not very consistent. It does kind of flip back and forth. There's not a whole lot of action in this issue either. And we do have a backstory with Punchline and everything in here. So about 2/3 of this book is actually Joker's story, and then about 1/3 of it is filled up with the Punchline storyline, which honestly, I have not been reading at all. Have you guys been reading that Punchline story in the back? The art's changed in there, and I do dig the art style in here. So I wish they would kind of keep that going here. But yeah, I think we're kind of course correcting on Joker a little bit. We're putting it back into the realm of interest for me. And so the interest for me started really, really high. It kind of faded as we kind of went overseas and had this jungle battle and vengeance was involved. And we found like this human farming kind of a thing going on. I just got so bored of all that stuff. I love the inner conflict that Gordon has about this opportunity that he was given, and who the hell are these people who gave him this opportunity. We kind of get a hint about that as well. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm excited for Barbara to kind of go out and kind of survey what's going on, where she's heading right now. I'm not going to kind of spoil it right there, but Joker number 11, definitely a course correction. I think it's heading in the right direction. And just like that, we're done with the big 2. We're going to go over to some indie books now. Starting with Marvel, I got Mark Millar and Scalera on King of Spies, issue number 2. I really enjoyed issue number 1. It's kind of like that, James Bond's at the end of his days. He's got 6 months left to live. He's not satisfied with the world he helped create over the decades. Maybe some assassinations and things that he's done led to some bad people coming to power and kind of destroying the world in his eyes. He's got 6 months to fix it. And so he's kind of going on his own like John Wick mission, and slaying all the people that he feels deserves it. I will tell you, the art in this book is absolutely phenomenal. I do really enjoy that. We have a couple like flashback scenes. We have all these little montages almost, these like kill montages that they put in here. It's really awesome. They do focus on this one other assassin in this one, and it's kind of their confrontation. It's pretty quick, but I thought it was at least interesting as to why he might be doing it and why he might be going for this particular guy and the lengths this guy has gone to be the best of the best. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing here. And they've introduced the idea of some other assassins that are in the area that are kind of the best at what they do, and that these certain people that are not appreciating all these kills he has, they're hiring all these assassins to kind of help take care of the problem, which I thought is pretty interesting. So we're going to have a lot of assassin versus assassin stuff coming up pretty soon, which I'm super excited for. The art is amazing in this book. I really do love the story as well. He's like an unstoppable force, and I've been totally digging it. And so, yeah, we even have like a Black Widow falling from an airplane battle, which I thought ended pretty satisfyingly. So it's just really, really cool. I've been really enjoying this book right here. If you haven't checked out King of Spies from Mark Millar, go ahead and pick it up. We got a new one from Joe Hill and David M. Boer. We got Thorgood and O'Halloran on the art as well. This is Rain, issue number 1. I didn't really hear much about this book until maybe like 2 days before it came out. I had it on my pull list back a couple months ago because I saw the creative team and it was a new number 1 from Image, and I'm like, man, you can't go wrong with that. The cover is so deceiving and so elusive. Like, it's like, what the heck is even going on? We have two ladies here. They're holding hands, and we have this like beam or this icicle going right through them. And you don't really know what's going on. It's called Rain. You can make some assumptions. I usually don't read solicitations. What I typically do is I look at the creative team, and then I look at who it's published by. That's pretty much all I go off of nowadays. And so, yeah, so it's my fault if I didn't quite know what was going on. But Rain is really interesting, man. It is very, very interesting. And there's really not much to spoil necessarily, but we do have this relationship here, and it's kind of beautifully put together and described. We have these two ladies that are in a relationship. One family is really conservative, and the other family is really liberal, and it's really interesting to kind of hear the dialogue that our main characters have when they talk about those sides of the families, which I thought was funny. We basically have the story of when the clouds opened up and started raining down these deadly projectiles. So it's a mixture of like a retrospective story played in real time with all this extra narrative layered on top. Like, this is Timmy. He's whatever, and he was saved because he has some kind of a sun allergy because of medication he takes. This is Mrs. So-and-so, and she likes to lay out in the sun. She was killed instantly, those kinds of things. And you're meeting those characters for the first time with that layer of narrative on top of it, which I think is pretty cool and an interesting way to tell the story. I do dig the art a lot in here too. I thought it was pretty charming. And I think it was interesting when you kind of saw the aftermath of when the clouds opened up and just destroyed everything. I like the scenes from that as well. The color palette's really cool too. I've been liking that a lot. But I think the one thing that this story lacks right here is kind of where do we go from here? We were kind of told that a lot of people lost their lives after this day. We've been introduced to a few different characters. One of them has survived. The other one has passed. A lot of the town's been wiped out. But there's no real clear direction of where we're going just yet. And so I'm just kind of interested in seeing where that goes from there. I don't know how many issues you can go. There's not really any kind of conflict right now. It's all just kind of mourning, and then, you know, where do you go from there? Maybe there's going to be some exploration of how it happened, why it happened, something like that. But I'm not quite sure where the book's going, but I really enjoyed issue number 1. All right, we're sticking with Image for a few more issues right here. We got What's the Furthest Place from Here from Boston Rosenberg. Absolutely love this book here. I got the B cover here because we haven't seen our main character, Sid, since I think issue number 1, and this is issue number 3. She was completely absent from the first issue. What I appreciate about this book and what it keeps continuing to do is we have this very complex, complicated world that all these characters live in right now. They don't take the time to baby feed you and spoon feed you like all the rules of this world. They let that kind of play out naturally through the dialogue between the characters and the dialogue between our main characters and their rival gangs, which I think is pretty interesting. They introduce new concepts and new characters, and they do it in a really fluid way, and then you just kind of absorb that information and then kind of layer it out, and you're understanding the world as each issue goes on. So I thought that was pretty cool. Our main characters here are actually looking for Sid. There's a whole gang of them. I'm having a really hard time remembering the people's names in this one. They're not very unique and identifiable. We focused on a couple different characters, and so that does help, but I can't recall off memory their names, which I think is a problem, but I really like the way that it's been written so far. There's just a lot of characters. The dialogue is really funny. It's quippy. It's interesting. And they're kind of seeking shelter, kind of going from place to place, trying to find Sid. They come across this old mansion over here they think is abandoned. They find some shady shit going on in here. They meet some interesting people, and they come across these guys called the Strangers, and they actually were able to kill one of them. The Strangers are people who live outside. They're masked. They have masks on. They look weird-looking people, and they provide food, and they kind of like set the rules, I believe, for all these different societies. Everyone really fears them. It's the reason why you don't go out at night. So we do learn a little bit more about the strangers, who they are, and we get introduced to a new family that lives in this house they thought was abandoned. And so it's really kind of interesting dialogue between them. Of course, they're going to be kind of drawing people in and trying to take them out or convert them or something like that. So we get a little mixture of like, no, we should probably get the hell out of here because these people are pretty twisted. And so I liked seeing all that, and there's a lot of conflict. I think the best charming part about this book is the dialogue between all the characters. I love their interactions. It's kind of like hokey, but real at the same time, and I really, really enjoyed that. And I've loved learning a little bit more about the world and having that just kind of build up, like I said before. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We're introduced to another group in this book. It seems like every single issue we get a introduction to a new, colorful, just crazy group of people. And this one might be the best one we've met so far towards the end of the book. And I think we're going to explore that in the further issues, which I cannot wait for. So Tyler Boss and Matthew Rosenberg are killing it right now with What's the Furthest Place from Here. We're on issue 3, Image Comics. Check it out. All right, our next piece of homework, comic this week is Department of Truth. Man, it feels like homework sometimes. This is issue number 15. This is the Mothman issue. I got that awesome variant cover right there just because I like that palette and I like the way that it looks right there. It's just absolute killer art on here. David Romero on the art, so Martin Simmons is not on the art for this issue. That's okay. What this issue basically is all about is our tinfoil hat man that we've seen in previous issues. He's been talking to Lee and whatnot. This is his retelling of some of the Mothman stories, and it's basically a bunch of just transcripts that you're reading through with supplemental or complimentary, just crazy good artwork in here. So it talks again about how myths can kind of run rampant inside the population. A lot of the key elements are seen in every single story, and so you can kind of call back one of the other issues of Department of Truth and just understand how myths kind of go from just a story to actual reality that they have to actually deal with. The art in here is super, super creepy. They introduce a few like a single alien-like creature in here. He's drawn really kind of strangely and really in a scary way, and I do like the conversation between Haynes and some redacted person in here talking all about the Men in Black and the Mothman and all this stuff, and about how Lee is kind of obsessed with the Mothman in particular. And so that was kind of interesting to see. And so, this book, I feel like I'm not smart enough to really layer on every single issue and just kind of see how this issue in particular kind of disturbs the foundation of the Department of Truth, or maybe it kind of like changes the reality a little bit, or my perception of the book. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to be learning from some of these books sometimes. I feel like they're so complicated and so maybe aware of themselves, and I'm just like the last person to know. I'm reading these things. Every one of the characters is having these revelations when they have these conversations, and I'm just sitting back going, I don't really understand the connection. I don't get it. What is he understanding that the reader that me, the reader, is not understanding right now? How is that changing everything? Is he the good guy or is he the bad guy? So I'm having all these weird problems when I'm reading this book, but I enjoy the book. It's heavy, man. It's so heavy. And I feel like I'm missing something. And so let me know if you guys are having a hard time kind of comprehending or understanding the main story. I read this issue and I'm just trying to figure out, is this continuing the main story? What does this change? What kind of timeline are we creating, right? What kind of bifurcation are we creating, knowing what we know now about this issue here? I don't know. We have a little bit more about Lee and his obsession, maybe, but I'm not entirely sure. So I don't know. I enjoy the books a whole lot. They're over my head. I don't care. I keep reading them. The art's fire. I don't know how he cranks these out as fast as he does, based on how complicated they are. But that's the Department of Truth, man. It's just crazy, and I don't think you're ever supposed to understand what's going on. All right, we only got a couple books left. We're going to start over at Blue Juice Comics. We got Billy the Kid, issue number 4 from J.V. Gray and McLean Jr. I've been loving this series. I've been liking this book as well. This issue is really, really good. I like that. I think a lot of comics have this kind of a cover where the hero's falling backwards and this horde of enemies is like falling towards them. I think we've seen like this in Venom. We've seen this in the Hawkeye issue recently. So I'm totally digging the art in this. I think these guys are great. I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. They need to be, because they're missing out on a really, really cool story. So we have our Kit over here. He's kind of on a revenge mission for multiple different layers right now. He just lost his family to this god of thunder and wind and everybody and tornadoes. And then he's also been on this revenge mission because they took out his former mentor and trainer just recently. And so he's kind of on the hunt, going town to town, trying to take on all these vampires and demons, whoever's around, to kind of kick their ass and get their revenge. And one thing I love about this book is just the dialogue in general. Whenever characters are talking to each other, it's just perfect combination of like conversation, vulgarity, slang, just little quips here and there. I really enjoy it. It's funnier than hell too. I really do enjoy that. So we have Billy here again. He's traveling around trying to wipe out all these demons. He meets this old Kit, and she's kind of warning him, dude, don't go over to that town. There's a town over there. It's completely overrun by vampires. Don't go over there. You're gonna regret it. You're on a suicide mission. She learns his motivations and like applauds him for that, but she's like, dude, it's a suicide mission, don't do it. And hey man, he's got to do what he's got to do. So he goes over there, confronts our demons. We have a really kick-ass battle. We got this really cool like full page spread too about basically the destruction that these demons have caused in here too. There's really interesting perspectives in here, just kind of camera shots almost, you know what I mean? And the demons in here are portrayed really well too. So we have just awesome battles, cool dialogue, really cool coloring and line work in here too, which I really appreciate it. We get an awesome like team up battle towards the end over here too. I won't spoil that for anybody, but looks like our guy Billy is kind of down and out a little bit again. Like I said in some of the other books, he's always down, and he always has to get back up and kind of rescued right now. He's still learning the ropes. He's got some people he can learn from still, and that's what this issue is all about over here. Looking forward to the next issue number 5 for sure. So please check out Billy the Kid if you haven't seen it yet. It's a really good story so far, and I've absolutely been loving it. And then our last book that I read this week is Hotel number 2, AWA Upshot. Been loving this one. A big fan of volume number 1. Volume number 2, issue number 1 was it had the threads of volume 1, but I feel like I found myself trying to like find the gotchas. You know what I mean? When we read volume 1, we didn't quite know how everything was going to be connected so brilliantly. And then after you've experienced that, you learn to expect it. Then issue number 1 had a lot of those like, oh, is that a thing? Oh, is that a thing? Oh, she's knocking on the thing, or she's not responding, or she's humming, or something like that. Like, I feel like that's going to be something we got to pay attention to. Going into this issue number 2, there's less of that. I feel like I found myself not trying to put the puzzle together before you even have all the pieces. And so I did appreciate that. Again, where it's just a story about somebody who happened to come across the hotel here. She's got a lot of demons in her past. She had a lot of things she was doing. She's not a good person. She's trying to really escape and get out of the situation that she's in. She comes across the hotel, and the hotel brings out the worst in everybody. So she has to kind of overcome those demons and everything. What I like about this book is there's lots of illusions that basically that she thinks are illusions, right? She kind of sees things that aren't there. She's asking other people. Those people don't see those things. And so it's really an interesting story about how she's trying to escape her demons, escape her past. And she thinks she kind of gets out, but, you know, did she really get out? So I really appreciated this one. This one kind of brings me back to the volume 1 that we knew and love. And so, yeah, I really did appreciate that push in that direction. The art is great. There's some interesting choices on a few pages here where the orientation of the pages really changes, and you kind of have to spin it around a little bit to kind of figure it out, which adds this whole like disorienting effect to the scene, which I really did appreciate, and I didn't mind at all. And so, again, and man, the art's just really killer in this one too. I really enjoyed that. And so this one, again, kind of, it makes me more excited about the series in general. It puts me back in the vibes I had when I read volume number 1. So pick up Hotel volume number 2, issue number 2. All right, that's everything I read. I put all the covers on the little grading scale down below to kind of give you a gauge of how I'm feeling about all these books right now. So if you're wondering what I'm feeling the most, you can kind of look over to the one side, and the books that I'm kind of iffy on are in the middle, and the books I'm thinking about, maybe that's about enough for me, are going to be towards the other end over there. So I hope you appreciate the graphic. I'll put it up on Instagram in a few days, give some people some time to watch the video if they wanted to. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification for future videos. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the comments.